The legacy of traditional plant-based diets in modern times. In an era dominated by processed foods and globalized diets, traditional plant-based eating habits offer a compelling contrast rooted in centuries-old wisdom. These dietary practices have shaped cultures across continents, from East Asia's emphasis on fermented soy products to Mediterranean staples such as olive oil and legumes. The resurgence of interest in ancestral diets has sparked renewed conversations about nutrition, sustainability, and food sovereignty. As modern consumers seek alternatives to industrial agriculture, understanding these time-honored traditions provides invaluable insight into how communities once thrived through careful cultivation and preservation techniques. Origins and cultural significance. Culturally significant plant foods emerged independently in various regions due to local climates, soil compositions, and historical agricultural innovations. For instance, quinoa became vital in Andean civilizations because of its resilience at high altitudes where other crops struggled to grow. Similarly, rice cultivation developed along river systems in Southeast Asia and China over thousands of years, shaping social structures around irrigation networks that required communal cooperation. These agricultural foundations not only ensured survival but also fostered cultural identities tied closely to specific ingredients. Religious and philosophical beliefs played crucial roles in determining which plants were cultivated and consumed. Hindu texts emphasize the importance of lentils and ghee, while Islamic teachings encourage dates and figs as natural sweeteners. Such spiritual influences created distinct dietary patterns still visible today. Numerous indigenous tribes preserved their knowledge through oral traditions passed down generations. Native American communities, for example, maintained complex seed-saving practices long before scientific documentation began, ensuring biodiversity and adaptability within changing environments. Nutritional profiles and benefits. Traditional plant foods often contain nutrient-dense profiles optimized through selective breeding over centuries rather than relying solely on modern nutritional science. Sweet potatoes grown in Polynesia developed naturally higher vitamin A levels compared to commercial varieties bred primarily for yield. Legumes like chickpeas, lentils, and black beans are rich sources of protein, fiber, and essential micronutrients. In India, dal preparations provide complete proteins when combined with complementary grains such as basmati rice or millet. Fermented foods play a critical role in enhancing digestibility and preserving nutrients without refrigeration. Kimchi, miso, and sauerkraut not only add flavor complexity but also support gut microbiome health, something increasingly recognized in contemporary wellness movements. The synergy between different plant foods was understood intuitively by ancient societies who paired ingredients strategically. Combining leafy greens with nuts provided both minerals and healthy fats missing from either component alone. Vitamin C-rich foods, bell peppers, citrus fruits, and acerola cherries were traditionally used to prevent scurvy among sailors navigating long voyages without access to fresh produce. Calcium sources, almonds, sesame seeds, and dark green vegetables offered non-animal alternatives before dairy farming spread globally during colonial expansions. Sustainability practices embedded in tradition. Many traditional agricultural methods inherently promoted ecological balance by working with nature rather than against it. Indigenous Amazonian peoples practiced slash-and-char instead of slash-and-burn, creating biochar that enriched soils for future harvests while minimizing smoke emissions. Biodiversity conservation was central to many pre-industrial food systems. African yam farmers cultivated numerous cultivars simultaneously to hedge against crop failures caused by pests or climate variations, unlike monoculture approaches common in modern agribusinesses. Water management strategies demonstrated remarkable ingenuity. Persian canot systems channeled underground water efficiently for irrigation without depleting surface reservoirs, reducing evaporation losses significantly compared to open canal networks. Seasonal harvesting calendars aligned with lunar cycles helped maintain environmental harmony. Japanese Satoyama landscapes incorporated rotational grazing patterns that prevented land degradation while supporting wildlife habitats alongside human settlements. Economic impacts and food security. Local economies historically revolved around staple crops that could be stored easily for extended periods. Amaranth grain in Mesoamerica remained nutritious even after long storage times, making it ideal for trade routes connecting diverse populations. Barter systems facilitated exchange of surplus produce without reliance on currency. In medieval Europe, wheat and barley might be traded for salt or wool, establishing regional interdependencies that strengthened community bonds and reduced vulnerability to external market fluctuations. Drought-resistant crops formed the backbone of resilient food systems. Millet thrived in arid regions of Africa despite erratic rainfall patterns, providing reliable sustenance during dry seasons when other cereals failed entirely. Potential threats arose when foreign agricultural imports disrupted native markets. Spanish introduction of sugarcane cultivation in the Caribbean displaced traditional cassava production, leading to shifts in labor dynamics and food availability patterns affecting entire populations. Modern revival movements. Recent decades have seen growing appreciation for traditional plant foods driven by concerns about chronic disease prevalence linked to Western diets. Studies show increased consumption of whole grains correlates strongly with lower rates of cardiovascular disease in populations maintaining ancestral eating patterns. Urban gardening initiatives now incorporate heirloom vegetable varieties previously lost due to industrialization pressures. Community-supported agriculture programs enable city dwellers to engage directly with seasonal produce harvested using methods similar to those employed by their ancestors. Restaurant menus increasingly feature heritage ingredients sourced ethically from small-scale producers committed to sustainable harvesting. Dishes incorporating heirloom tomatoes or wild-caught sea vegetables reflect broader societal recognition of culinary diversity beyond mass-produced options. Healthcare professionals recommend returning to traditional plant-based diets as preventive measures against metabolic syndrome. Research indicates individuals consuming predominantly plant-based meals experience improved insulin sensitivity comparable to pharmaceutical interventions currently prescribed worldwide. Cultural preservation challenges. Rapid globalization threatens to erode knowledge about indigenous foodways as younger generations gravitate toward convenience-driven fast food culture. Urban migration further distances people from rural origins where many traditional cooking techniques originated. Language barriers complicate transmission of recipes containing precise measurements requiring intuition rather than metric units commonly taught in formal education settings. This disconnect makes some preparation methods difficult to replicate accurately outside original contexts. Erosion of artisanal skills risks losing specialized processing techniques like stone grinding for masa dough or slow fermentation processes behind authentic sourdough bread. Industrial substitutes often lack the depth of flavor achieved through patient craftsmanship honed over lifetimes. Climate change introduces new challenges by altering growing conditions for heirloom species adapted to specific microclimates. Rising temperatures threaten coffee bean quality in Ethiopia while shifting precipitation patterns disrupt established planting schedules relied upon by subsistence farmers everywhere. Educational initiatives. Bridging generations. Preserving traditional plant foods requires deliberate efforts to pass knowledge forward through structured educational frameworks. Schools integrating ethnobotanical studies help students understand the botanical basis underlying ancestral diets and their relevance today. Apprenticeship models allow young cooks to learn directly from master chefs dedicated to reviving endangered cuisines. These mentorship relationships ensure continuity of techniques that would otherwise vanish amidst digital media distractions dominating current youth culture. Digital platforms democratize access to rare information through online archives storing video tutorials demonstrating obsolete yet valuable preparation methods. Virtual reality experiences can immerse users in reconstructed kitchens replicating historical environments precisely. Community workshops hosted by elder practitioners create spaces for intergenerational dialogue surrounding ingredient sourcing, ethical consumption, and holistic well-being perspectives embedded deeply within traditional philosophies about nourishment. Towards Sustainable Futures. Integrating lessons from traditional plant foods offers pathways toward healthier societies grounded in ecological awareness. By valuing regenerative farming practices that restore degraded lands while respecting cultural narratives attached to particular crops, we honor our shared human heritage. Moving forward demands collaborative efforts between researchers, educators, and grassroots organizations working together to document endangered knowledge before it disappears permanently. Open-source databases cataloging traditional recipes and cultivation methods will serve as living libraries accessible to anyone seeking deeper connections with ancestral foodways. Ultimately, embracing traditional plant-based diets represents more than just nostalgic longing. It signifies proactive choices contributing positively to planetary health. Through mindful consumption informed by history, we empower ourselves to build resilient food systems capable of sustaining future generations successfully. As stewards of Earth's resources, recognizing the intrinsic value of culturally rooted plant foods becomes imperative. Their revival isn't merely about rediscovering flavors, it's about reclaiming agency over what we eat and how we relate meaningfully to our environment sustainably going forward. Conclusion: traditional plant-based diets represent much more than alternative meal plans. They embody centuries of accumulated wisdom about harmonious coexistence with nature. From sophisticated agricultural technologies developed millennia ago to nuanced understandings of nutritional balance, these time-tested practices remain profoundly relevant today. By honoring and revitalizing these ancient food traditions, we cultivate not only personal health benefits but also strengthen collective resilience against emerging global challenges. Let us continue exploring, learning, and sharing stories about the incredible variety of plant foods that have sustained humanity across ages and geographies with renewed curiosity and respect.